standing in the driveway. Back behind me it goes out to the road. And I know it doesn't look like much, but if you look on both sides of the roads, there's no overhangs and there's barely any weeds. It took me a better part of a week with the scythe to go through here and cut all the overhanging brush down. And Mondays has been the day that I've been using to scythe all of this stuff that regrows. So there's quite a bit of work that goes into that, and anybody who's used a scythe to cut brush with knows exactly what I'm talking about. It's not easy to do. Good morning. This is Mike from Wildcat Hollow Farm. Today's a special day. It is day 100 of me being here on the farm. And because of that, I'm going to take everybody around and show you the things that I've done, things that I've found, things that I've seen, just to give everybody an update of the last 100 days. Now, all of the ground that you see behind me is in the front yard of the house. When I got here, this was all about 7 feet high in ragweed. Because of that, I got ate up with chiggers for about the first 3 weeks, and bad enough that I will actually have scars from it. At some point, apparently, I've lost my resistance to Missouri chiggers, or they vacation in the front yard. But the neighbor came down here and bush hogged the front yard for me. That was about the 10th of August. Well, I've been maintaining it, the front yard, and the well is about a total of 3 acres so far, with a scythe. Now, under normal circumstances, that'd be fairly easy. But a bush hog leaves all the little stubs behind. So when you swing a scythe and you hit buckbrush stubs, it likes to tear your shoulders out of the joint. It's been fun. It's been different. Behind me over here, you can see that there's the remnants of a tree. It is one of the standing dead that I have here on the farm. There's another one back over here, a stump that you can see sticking up. Another standing dead, and you can see several in the background from that. I've been cutting them down slowly, a little bit at a time, and turning them into firewood. Within about 50 yards of the house, there's probably 25 standing dead that have to come down, and I will take them down one at a time. Behind me here, you see the backyard. This too was very high with weeds. Most of it was buckbrush. You can see remnants of it sticking up in the back there. And it's been slowly cleared out over time. This walnut tree standing up here in the middle is another standing dead that's going to have to come down. This one's going to take a little more diligence than the other ones, because this one is right close to the house. You can see the edge of the house right behind me. And that walnut tree could easily fall on the house if I'm not careful taking it down. So I'm waiting for that one. I'll have to rig up a couple of pulleys to make sure it leans in the correct direction as it goes. This pile right here behind me represents half of the house of the stuff that I tore out of it. It is 90% drywall and mismatched old insulation, old rat nests, mud dauber nests, rat chewed wiring, and pretty much anything that I could not save to reuse in a reconstruction of the house. And we'll get to the reconstruction of the house as soon as I'm done outside here. But that lets you know just exactly how much. That's 480 square feet of junk. And there's another 480 square feet of house to go yet. I know you can't really tell. We're up here at the edge of the pond right now, and the area between the camera and I was full of buckbrush and multiflora rose, and it's all been cut out and taken down. It took me the better part of 3 or 4 days to cut through this because some of that rose stuff is really, really thick and rather gnarly. And I had to drag a lot of it out of the pond as I was cutting it down because it was the only place to throw it. So it's been quite a bit to remove this. And up here at the pond side, back down in the hillside direction over here, we got hog houses that I'm going to have to get rid of. And to emphasize the point, I'm going to pick up the camera here, turn it around. Behind me, all this grove behind me is nothing but cedars. Majority of that is growing on the bank right here at the edge of the pond, and they're all going to come down because they're eating their way into the bank of the pond, which is not good. It creates leaks, but most of them can be used for fence posts as well, at least the larger ones, but the smaller ones can be used for other things as well. So none of it will go to waste. Right behind me here is a little grove of hawthorn trees that are dead. And I don't know why, but they all have moss and lichen growing on them. And for something has killed them off. And from where I can stand, I've got another grove here on the other side of the path that's exactly the same way. And I don't know what it is that's killing them, and I wish I did know. But eventually they're all going to have to come down. And anybody who knows anything about hawthorn trees, they are really, really not fun to play with because they got spikes all over them. Big thorns. Yeah, this is just one of the little ones off the branch here. But, the trunks are worse. They come in multiple groups, and they got little spikies all over them. So that'll be something that I'm going to have to cut down, and we're just going to have to burn it in place, because if you get poked by a hawthorn thorn, a lot of times they end up getting infected because there's bacteria and stuff that grows on the ends of them, and kind of wreak havoc with your physiology. And I'm standing, I'll kind of swing the camera around here a little bit. Okay, anybody who knows me knows that I'm a fairly tall person. I'm 6'3". Okay, right behind me here, all this stuff is buckbrush, and it's 4.5+ foot tall. Got tons of it everywhere. This area originally used to be part of a hog lot here, and hogs don't eat buckbrush, so it's what's left over after they ate everything else, which is not really good. But that's something else that's going to have to be managed and put under control. They're not burials. They're actually holes that I dug. This is the last 5 out of 11 holes that I dug, tracing the sewer pipe out to find out where it actually went. Well, I'm kind of glad that I had to go through the work to do that, because this hole right here in front of me, where the pipe goes through it, it's got a hole in it, which means it's been leaking, and that would explain why the grove of trees was in here. because from this point out to where it runs into the lagoon, it's going to have to be replaced. It's got tree roots all through it. So the labor wasn't wasted labor. In spite of it being not easy to do, it did provide beneficial information, which I can say is actually worth it, because it lets me know the problems that we've got in some of the areas. I'm standing on the old concrete for the wellhead. Wellhead's right here. Got it busted up partially thanks to Joey at My Slice of Heaven Outdoors. And I've got the trench for the new electrical dug in. At some point I'm going to have to get this concrete flipped over out of the way, get the electrical in, and then start redoing the well. Redoing the well is not going to be as bad as what I thought it was initially going to be. We were told that the well here was 200 plus feet deep, and it turns out that it's half that. The well service that originally maintained it had the records from when it was put in, and it was drilled to 106 feet. Okay, I dropped weighted measure down in it 6 times around the outside of the casing, one time twice down the middle, and it came out to 104 feet. So it's only half as deep as what we thought, which is a good thing, because that means it's half as the cost to put it in for the new pump and things like that. Can use a smaller pump, which will be adequate. Busting that concrete up wasn't easy. Most of us, when we think of concrete slab, we're thinking 4 inches or so. This one wasn't. It was better than 6 in most places, 8 in others. It wasn't put in uniformly, let's say. But trenching that out took longer than what it should have because of the, well, Missouri soil, let's call it that way. This used to be a standing dead walnut, and you can see I'm sitting on a section of it that's a little over 6 foot long. Another section that's a little over 6 foot long there. It was 23 inches at the base, and I'm saving both of these sections because I'm going to use the wood. Bottom section I'm going to split and turn it into billets and make bows out of it. Because walnut's good for that as long as you back it with something. And I've got plenty to back it with. The portions of the tree that is too small to be used for specific purposes is being cut up for firewood. Yeah, I know. Walnut's expensive. Burning firewood that is walnut makes me feel really, really, really like a criminal. Because last time I checked, walnut was about $12 a board foot. And I've got, about a half a cord of firewood that's none but walnut. So figure it from there. Yeah, it's freaky burning walnut. It's supposed to burn oak, not supposed to burn walnut. At one point, I dug a trench that went from down here all the way up to where you see the electricals at on the side of the house. The reason I dug this trench was to follow the water line, because coming out of the house was a 1/2 inch line. Well, a 1/2 inch line is too small to serve as your primary service for a house. Well, I started digging it up, following it back down here, and right about where this pile of rocks is at, I don't know if you can see it, but right here on the left side of where I am, the 1/2 inch changed into 1 inch. Fortunately, I don't have to trench up the whole water line. I replaced this section here with 1 inch, and then when I get ready to do the well, I'll flush this pipe out using the well pressure, clean it out, bleach it, and then I'll hook up to the house, and once it goes into the house, it'll go to 3/4 inch, and I'll be using PEX for that because you can run cold water to your various places, use a point of use heater, and yes, I know some people say they don't work, and that's a bunch of horse pucky because they've gotten better in the last 10 years. So using PEX cold water to run it to your point of use reduces your plumbing cost by half, because you only got to run one line instead of two. You can split it at your point of use, run it through the heater, run the cold water to the faucet, then run the hot water to the faucet, and you've got hot water that way. To that end, we're going to have 3 separate point of use water heaters. The largest one will go to the bathroom, the second largest one will be in the laundry utility area, and the smallest one will be in the kitchen. The models that I've looked at, the smallest ones start at about $120. The ones needed for the bathroom would be about twice, 2.5 times that, so call it $300. But it beats having an electric or a propane main water heater, because not only are those much more expensive, but if one of them, if your main water heater burns out, you don't have hot water. Okay, this way, with 3 separate point of use, if one of them burns out, we still have hot water. In addition, because we're out here in, how does Edie put it? We're beyond the sticks, we're in the twigs. Thank you, Edie, for that one. That's good. And Missouri has frequent ice storms and power outages. I eventually can add a generator hookup and still be able to power things like light and water heating without too much of a problem for anything else. So there are methods to the madness that have been fairly well planned out over the past year. That's all walnut firewood. There's a lot of it. I've taken down 3 separate walnuts so far, and most of them have been standing dead. The white wood on most of them is fairly well rotted out, but the stuff that you actually want to use is still hard, it's still good, and it really kind of irks me that I have to burn it for firewood. But at this point in time, I don't actually have any use for it. Don't have a shop set up, and what little I do have use for, I'm utilizing. I've had several people ask me if I've got the door finished yet. No, it is not finished yet, and it won't be for a while. I put it up only because I had need to close out the weather. I will eventually have to take it down and finish it out. But it's not a big deal, because when I do that, I will have to also make 3 other doors in that same pattern. So I will use it as the primary design focus to make the other doors match. That way they're all uniform and will look good, other than the fact that they look good now. Love that style door, always have. I like it with the diagonals in it even better. Makes it look good. Well, in my opinion, it does. That big pile of trash out there came from in here. There were walls in here differently than what there are now. The area that I'm standing at now is going to be the bathroom. The toilet will be here in front of me. The vanity will be right here. There'll be a custom built shower. Hallway through here. That way it keeps all the water service towards the center of the house. No frozen lines. This area where the ladder is at is going to be a walk-in closet. And the area here where the camera is going to be the bedroom. And as you can see, I've already got the electrical started in here. Nothing is hooked up yet. I'm using materials that I pulled out of the house. As you can tell, the ceiling is down to the rafters. There's nothing left in there. I spent the better part of 2 days with a hoe and a rake scraping the mud dauber nests out of it, as many as I could get, in addition to the ones that came out when the drywall came down. And it's still not 100%, but most of it is fairly clean, which is a good thing. I'll swing the camera around here. Yeah. This corner here is going to have two big changes in it. This area where the window's at, over to about here, is going to be a sliding glass door. I have to take this framing out, put a new header in that will accommodate the glass door before I can temporarily reframe it in on the inside so I can get the insulation and the electrical done. Actually, electrical first, then insulation. This window over here behind me on this wall is going to be an 8-foot wide window seat that sticks out 4 foot from the house. So the other big header beam is going to be for the header on this and for the same purpose, so I can frame it in, get it ready for the winter coming up. I know the camera keeps changing light sensitivity and things like that, but it gives you an idea of what it is. And the two beams that I'm talking about to be used as headers are right over here on the floor behind me. They are originally decorative header beams that came out of the living room and a divider between the living room and the kitchen. And one of them was right here, and the other one was right over here. And I'd like to thank Jackie, Blurton, and Logan and Hunter from Graybeard's Off-Grid. They came out here and helped me take them down. There's no way I could have taken them down by myself. The big beam is almost 13 feet long. It's two 2x12s with a 1/2 inch spacer in them and weighs somewhere in the lines of 300 pounds. It's a chunk. But thanks to them for helping me take them down. Now the front of the house here is not going to get done this winter. Once I get the electrical done and the insulation done in here, I'll be putting up the drywall and a temporary enclosure across the opening here. So we will use this as our bedroom living area until we can get the front half done. And we can tear the front half out after Petra gets here and get it prepped for rebuild, but we're not going to start rebuilding it until we get this section done. My job is to get this insulated and the drywall up from the bedroom, the closet, at least to the bathroom area, so I can get a flushy in here for the wife, so Petra doesn't have to spend time on a bucket. I don't mind roughing it, but she doesn't need to do that. She's not accustomed to doing that, and being my little delicate flower, she shouldn't have to. She's a princess. She needs a throne, so we'll make her one, or at least the suitable functioning one. It'll have to wait to get pretty until we start redecorating. We move down here into the living or the kitchen area. These kitchen cabinets are actually really nice. They're made out of 5/8 or 3/4 inch plywood. They were built in place, and that's kind of unfortunate because they don't have any backs. The shelves are particle board, which was fairly standard at the time. We can replace those with no problem. I'd like to keep these. Petra likes to keep these because they're good and solid, but I'm going to have to build backs for them because there's no back, there's no end on this one. Most of the rest of them are the same way. And they didn't put them up with screws. They nailed them right directly to the studs. it's going to be a real pain in the rumpus to get them down. And this wall over here, while I was tearing this wall out right here, I found another opening for a stovepipe. But when I tore this wall out, there was no cover. This was just an open hole into the flue, which kind of freaked me out because I'd been in here burning a fire downstairs in the flue connection down there for a month. I could have burnt the house down. Didn't even know that flue connection was there. Didn't even know there was one there. Because originally this house had a big wood furnace installed downstairs. You can see the marks on the floor where it used to sit. So it never occurred to anybody that there might be an opening up here. Yeah, it scared the crap out of me. And so you can see what's been done, what hasn't been done, what's left to do. And I know I've been here 100 days today. I've been back in the United States for 105 days total. It doesn't really look like I've done all that much, but that's perception. I've been working fairly continuously here, with the exception of one weekend, almost 10, 11 hours a day. I don't go into town that much, usually once a week, just to check mail. Occasionally I run over to Sean's house and spend a Friday night talking and drinking beer, being sociable. One of the reasons it took 2.5 months to tear the inside of this out is because of the materials. Okay, I don't know if you can actually tell or see it, but the studs in here are actual 2x4. They are not the nominal 3.5, 1.5 that you get from a lumber yard. These were actually cut here on the farm to 2 inches by 4 inches. So any framing that I have to do, or reframing I have to be careful to take out the 2x4s that are in here and reuse them. If I don't, I'll have to shim new ones. I'll have to cut 1/2 inch shims and nail them to the face of the stud to make them fit the walls that are here. And that is just cumbersome and time consuming, to say the least. But taking out the old 2x, you have to be careful not to tear them out, not to rip them out. You have to leave them in a condition that you can reuse them. In addition to that, once you do get them out, you have to pull all the nails. And these had a lot of nails because the drywall that was in here was put up with nails. It wasn't put up with screws. Back in the 70s, it was standard. 70s and before, it was standard practice to use nails. They didn't use screws then. When you tear drywall off a wall that has nails in it, the nails don't come with the drywall. So I had several thousand nails that I had to pull. And again, thanks to Jackie and Jennifer and their children, that actually went fast because they came out here one weekend and helped me pull a bunch of them. But reclaiming the materials takes longer than it actually does to framing. The new wall frames, I had the new wall frames up in a week, and that's including teaching a class on how to lay out and frame a wall. So the reconstruction is faster than what it is to reclaim it. Well, if you made it this far in the video, I'd like to thank you for watching. And I only have one more thing to say. 11 weeks, 1 day, 2 hours until I get to hug my beautiful wife again. Thank you all for watching.